going to start today on how do you do a no-sew blanket. It starts with 2 pieces of flannel, felt, and this is the bottom, this is the top. When you lay the material out, material's a little bit strange. The top part is actually on the outside. So let's put the bottom part down first, and as we unfold it, notice that this is the top part that is going to become the top of our blanket, so we have to put it on the bottom. You can always tell by the center fold, the wrong side is folded in. So if you forget how you unfolded it, the wrong side is the inside. We lay the bottom part out because we're going to have to cut off this border here. It's a frayed type of border and it's not any good. And no kit ever has the same 2 sizes of material. Even when you buy a kit, the material is generally not identical in size. So we have to put them together for 2 reasons. 1, to cut this border off, and 2, to make them both the same size. I don't have a nice big table like this one, I just have my dining room table. So the way to start is to lay it out on one end of your table and just leave the other end hang over the side. Again, with the top of your blanket, what's on the outside is the right side. Here you can really see this bad yucky border that we need to cut off. Doing the same thing, the inside is what we want down because this is the top part of your blanket. And we put the 2 yucky sides, for lack of a better term, together. Starting in one corner, we want to match it up. And then working over to the other side. Again, if you're at home and you have a small table, just let it hang off the end. Once you get these 2 pieces pretty much laid out and neat, and I find it easiest to fluff it. You can't believe that this row of stars is even. Material is printed by machine, and even though it looks like I have rows of stars, you cannot assume you can just cut down the row of stars and it's all even, because that's not the case. The material, even in a stripe material, you can't assume that it's even. This sometimes is the longest part of the process, is just getting these 2 pieces flat on here. And what you're seeing here is this red piece is much, much smaller. Even though I buy 2 yards of each piece, this red one is much smaller than the blue one. Once you get it laid out on this side, because remember that other side is hanging off your table, then you want to pin the pieces in place. I use the pins that have the really big heads because they're easier for me to see and easier for me to grab. Then you pin it above where you want to cut, because you're going to cut so the pins stay in the material, because you want, once you get this all nice and neat, you want to make sure it stays together. So just start pinning, and sometimes you have to just feel where the other piece is. So that piece is up there, and I want to cut on this side of the pin. So I have to pin it in such a way, feeling the bottom part, pinning it on the inside. pin about every 8 inches, whatever you're comfortable with. Now, since this side is off my table, I'm going to pin this side because it's on the table. Because then when I move everything around, I've pinned as much as I can on my table. Some people have a ping pong table and they say that's the perfect size. I don't have a ping pong table, I have a dining room table. So I have to use the dining room table. Again, feeling where the material is, I can feel, you can see that the red is smaller than the blue. So I want to put my pins just in a little bit that I can cut on this side of the pin. So feeling the material and then putting the pin there. And it's very obvious to feel where the other material is, so it's not hard to feel it. And you just want to go up maybe a half an inch so that you can cut. Now that I've got this side and that done, I'm going to pull the material down a little bit so that I can do that side. Again, the same thing, you can see the red material is really shorter than the blue. And you can also kind of see it's bowed a little bit, so I'm going to try and take that into account. So the center where it was going up was right about in here. And it's all kind of an estimate on your part. The idea is the 2 pieces of material have to end up the same size. If they're not perfect squares, it's not a problem, because we're going to be tying and braiding the material, and it just has to look real nice. That's the bottom line. From here, you pull the material this way, and you then do the same thing with your other side. Once you have done all 4 sides, you need a good pair of scissors. This material, any material, is difficult to cut with regular paper scissors. So you need a good sharp pair of scissors. Then when you cut, you just follow the line of your pins. You cut that side. I don't have a pin down here, I need another pin. You do want to make sure that the material is really pinned well, because unless you have a ping pong table, you're going to be sliding it around. If it's not pinned well, the pieces aren't going to match, and when you cut it to tie it or to braid it, the braids aren't going to be in a line. So you need to really make sure you pin it and you keep it pinned. Also, for me, I never finish a blanket in one setting. So by pinning it, I can just flip it up, fold it together, and put it away. I have 2 white cats who love to lay on soft things. So I obviously do not want cat hair on the blankets. So I just fold them up and put them away. But again, you need to pin them to make sure when you pick them up again, they're still together. So again, when we cut this side, now this was the side with the yucky braid. So after we cut a little bit, we do want to turn it up and make sure that that yucky part, this blue one's easy to see, but the red's a little harder to see. I'm going, I'm also feeling underneath to make sure I'm staying within the braid, within the yucky part of it. I'm sure there's a technical term for that piece, but I think yucky part works just fine. And that's it. Now you have a blanket ready to braid or to tie the knots in.